Find out your real chess level with this one special puzzle. As always, what matters is not just the move you choose, but more importantly the way you think. It's white to move, pause the video if you need to, think about it, and then we'll discuss the solution together. By the way, I gave this position to 5 players of different strength so that you can easily compare yourself against others and see exactly what's missing for you to unlock the next chess level. Alright, your level is 500. If you looked at the position and it just looked very messy, chaotic, and you were not really sure what to do because there are a bunch of moves that white can play, and against every one of them, there's a bunch of things that black could do, and maybe also blunder the piece, which you could do either by not noticing that the bishop is hanging, or by deciding to retreat the bishop and not noticing that this would drop the knight on c4. If you got there, that's level 500, but no problem, we all started somewhere. Your level is 700 if first of all you did not blunder a piece, and secondly you notice that his king is centralized, exposed, and you notice the move knight d6 check, which is the most straightforward attacking move, check in one. However, you didn't think it through and you just thought that after that I will attack somehow. That's 700. You move up to the level of 900 if you could calculate it through. And here's a pro tip. For beginners, any calculations seem very chaotic and complicated because they don't even know which moves to pick, which moves to calculate. And strong players, they don't calculate everything. We're not machines, right? So here, for instance, you don't have to calculate these moves of putting the king to the d file because clearly it's bad for black to just expose his king and put it to an open file where white could easily attack it. Therefore, you don't think about those moves at all. And instead, you only focus on moves that make sense, right? So king to e7 clearly is the move that keeps the black king secure. And now we have to think about this position because what's the follow-up? For instance, you probably don't want to just trade on c8 because you trade off your active knight or his passive bishop and help him to complete his development. This is clearly not what you want, so let's take that back. All right, what are the other options we have? If you try to chase the king with something like queen h4 check, then it will drop the knight on d6, for instance. So again, that's not a good thing. Okay, what else is there? By the way, our bishop on b5 is still hanging. What are you going to do about that? And if you move the bishop, let's say bishop c4, looks cool at first because we're seemingly winning a tempo, hitting the queen, but the queen can go to d6, winning our knight. By the way, this game was played by Fischer in a Simul, and it reminds me another story. Fischer claimed that he could give knight odds to any female chess player, including women's world champion, and still win. When Tal was asked whether Fischer could really beat her without a knight, he replied in his witty style, "Fischer is Fischer, but a knight is a knight." All in all, knight d6 is a tempting attacking move, but it's unclear what to do next. But you get 100 of extra rating points if you took time to evaluate a position, because this is what strong players do. It's a stereotype that they just sit there and calculate like computers. They don't. They think about the general properties of the position because it's easier. That narrows down, helps you understand what is actually going on here. All right, so what do we see here? Yeah, clearly the king is exposed. Also, the black rook moved, meaning black lost the right to castle kingside. In theory, he could still castle queenside if, let's say, he moves the bishop and goes there, but in reality it could be difficult because white will probably try attacking. Now, it's also true that this bishop is attacked and the knight on c4 is somewhat hanging, therefore white needs to do something about that. But overall, that centralized king, plus the fact that the material is equal, white did not even sacrifice anything to get to such an exposed position of the black king, certainly gives white a big edge. Plus, white is ahead in development. White has developed all of his pieces and he's already attacking while black is still struggling. So basically, even if we get to this line and trade on c8, even though it's not the strongest move, but white is still significantly better here because we have basically a normal chess position, but the king is completely exposed right here in the middle of the board and white is still way better. Your level is 1200 if you noticed the move queen to c7 and thought that white is winning here. The threat here is knight to d6, we just make it stronger because now, for instance, if black captures on b5, now knight to d6 is not just a check. The black king has nowhere to go and black would have to give up the queen and end up with the losing position. Here's the problem with this way of thinking. For all the chess players, we love thinking about our own plans, our own ideas, and we don't think nearly as much about our opponent. And we also tend to have wishful thinking. When there is an idea that looks appealing, we are eager to execute it and we're hoping to win. But stronger players are more objective and they also think about their opponent's defensive resources. Therefore here, if you actually stop to think about your opponent and what he could do to stop your idea, that is 1500. For instance, black could play bishop d7. And now if you go knight to d6 check, the king has an escape square, king to e7. And what are you going to do here? It's not that simple. The knight on d6 is hanging, the bishop on b5 is still hanging. Also, black is somewhat completing his development. Therefore, you definitely shouldn't go here unless you see a clear follow-up. And if you notice this defensive resource by black, that's a very good sign. Moreover, if I take this back, besides bishop to d7, there is also one more move, queen to d7, which is even more forcing because now it attacks both the queen and the knight. And again, the only forcing move that you can play here is knight to d6, but after king to e7, white runs into the same problem. Now this knight is hanging, the queen is also hanging, and the bishop on b5, which would probably force white to make trades and to end his attack, which we don't want. Now, this is a more advanced level. I don't really expect you to find this defense by black unless you're really advanced, but at least you should have thought about bishop to d7 and noticing that things aren't easy. Alright, after quite a lot of thinking, we ended up with nothing. But don't get discouraged. Like I said, it's a game of Fischer, and I certainly don't expect you to play like Fischer. Very few people in history could possibly try that. On the other hand, I gave this position to some advanced players, and they found it. Even though they're not Fischer, they're not geniuses, right? So it is doable. And I think it's still interesting and enlightening to see how stronger players think so that you can replicate their models of thinking. All right, your level is 1700 if you thought about candidate moves. In the heat of a battle, we often forget about that. We go down the rabbit hole of calculating a move that seems appealing, and we forget that initially it's really good to list down the options you have so that you don't forget about something. Now, we already know that the black king is exposed and you want to attack it. This knight to d6 move is appealing, there is queen to c7, which we already thought about, but there is another move, rook to d1, which also makes a ton of sense. You include your rook into the attack, you also cut off some squares from the black king, potentially reinforcing that idea of knight to d6, and therefore rook to d1 is definitely a move. All in all, I'd say that we have three worthy moves worth considering. And we already know that knight to d6 is the most appealing, but also it's the most unclear, so probably doesn't work. Therefore, it all comes down to choosing between these two, queen to c7 and rook to d1. Now, if you came to realize that, that's already a very high level thinking. All right, let's move on. We're close now. We already know that queen to c7 is not that simple. Black has some defensive options. Therefore, let's think about rook to d1. Let's think it through what's going to happen. That bishop on b5 is hanging, black will probably take it, otherwise he'll be just under a massive attack with no compensation at all. Black captures it, now we've got knight to d6 check. What will black play? Clearly he does not want to move his king to the d file, where our rook stands, therefore he's going king to e7. And now the situation is trickier. There is no obvious continuation of the attack, there is no force in checkmate. But if you got up to this point, and felt that white is better, white should probably be winning, I would give you 1800, because this is also a sign of a strong player. Stronger players don't just calculate mechanically, like I take, he takes, I check, he moves. They also try to evaluate position and keep their understanding of what is even going on here, right? Because, for instance, when I thought about this position, I even thought about a move like that, pawn to f4 and just attacking that way. And a lazy grandmaster like I am could even play like that. I see that even Carlsen plays like that in Blitz sometimes. Instead of playing like the most complicated line, even if it's strongest, sometimes they just find the position where it feels like you're dominating. Your pieces are active, you're attacking, his king is weak, he's disorganized, and even if you don't see the immediate win, you see that you're pressing, there are many threats, and usually that stuff works. That said, if you want to find the strongest moves, then we gotta consider forcing moves, checks, captures, threats. These are the moves that don't give your opponent any free time to complete his development and to organize his defense. Now, speaking about the forcing moves, what do we have here? Knight takes c8, you don't want to play this, trading off your active knight for his passive bishop, he'll simply recapture. Queen to h4 check is interesting, but black can block in various different ways. Alright, how about knight to f5? That is an interesting move. This is clearly a knight sacrifice, but in exchange for that, we're attacking his queen and also opening up this file for our rook. And this looks very appealing. If you noticed that and thought that white is winning, even though you couldn't calculate all the consequences, that is 2000. That is already very advanced. Now, the thing is, it is actually winning. But the trick is, it's hard to calculate it through carefully because there are so many moves that black can possibly play, right? So you have to spend a lot of time, a lot of effort trying to visualize and calculate all those lines. Now, just to let you know, this is winning because, for instance, in the main line, even though black doesn't have to go there, but if queen takes f5, you've got the follow-up of queen to d6 check because it's supported by the by the rook, the king goes, and now we've got queen d8 checkmate. So that would be the main line. With that being said, black could go in some other squares, with his queen, and then you'd have to calculate harder, and it still looks a little bit messy. And now we finally arrive at the move played by Fischer, which was different and stronger. It is a move queen to c7, and if you found that, that's 2200. Now, it's only 2200 because it's still not the end. Now, here's an issue. I don't know exactly how Fischer thought about this, but the advanced players that I asked to think about this position didn't come to that idea initially. Initially, they also started thinking about the more obvious moves, knight to d6 and queen to c7, but then they realized that, okay, if knight to d6, the king escapes right here, right? If rook to d1, still unclear, and then at some point, they had this aha moment where they're like, wait a second, what if I just combine these two? Right? If I bring the rook right here to cut off the king, and then I also bring the queen right here, and then I really maximize the power of all of my pieces and bring them all into the attack to maximize the power of the attack. If you thought about that, that's a very advanced level, congratulations. And by the way, I'm curious to know which variations you thought about. Please let me know in the comments down below. And again, don't be shy, of course, I don't expect you to play like Fischer. I can't, and pretty much no one can. You get 2400 if not only you found the idea, but you also calculated it through, because we're still down a piece. We need to know whether we can conclude our attack successfully. Now, we're threatening knight to d6, queen d8, rook d8, a whole lot of stuff, bishop d7, clearly black is forced to do that, knight d6 check, king to e7. So far, it was pretty obvious, but what are you going to do here? Now, the next move is complicated, looks complicated, but I wouldn't say that it's that difficult to find because, how else can you attack? And it's a move knight to f5. And this is the one that is very strong because we want to open up his king. Now, black has to accept the knight sacrifice. If he goes back, by the way, what do you do here? It's a pretty funny move, knight to g7, right? Because initially, if you look at this position, you'd be thinking, like, wait a second, how could the knight end up being there, right? But still, chess game is interesting. All right, and also the king cannot escape. He can try, but then rook to d6, we're chasing down the king, the queen. Queen takes d7 is also coming, and black is also losing the game. Therefore, that is also not an option. Black has to accept the sacrifice. Now we recapture, hitting the queen, opening up this file for the rook, and the main line goes like this. If the queen captures, what do you do here? You could play rook e1 check, but the king can escape. Queen d6, for that reason, looks more promising, attacking the king and potentially x-raying the rook. King comes to e8, we go rook e1 check, bishop e6, and now when it seems like black keeps everything under control, there is a winning move for white. Can you find it? Yeah, it's this funny checkmate, queen d7, making use of the pin. All that happened in the game, but black played a really nice counter-attacking move, rook to c8. Now, also, with all the fairness, I don't know if Fischer calculated everything up front. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But now you can feel yourself in the shoes of Fischer. What if your opponent surprises you with this interesting counter-strike, rook to c8? What do you do next? And I've told you that it was a game played by Fischer in a simul. He had 10 opponents, but it wasn't an easy walk in the park for Fischer because they were strong local players, and it was a simul with clock, and I gave a number of simuls myself during my life, and I can tell you that when you have time limit and a lot of chess games, a lot of chess boards, sometimes that can get in trouble. Because at some point, if you get low on time, you have to literally run around those boards, making moves hectically and trying to focus on positions after positions after position, which is unusual and quite horrible, right? And even for Fischer, it wasn't that easy. In one of the games, he got in trouble, even though eventually he ended up to turn the tables and to win all 10 games. Anyway, right now it is white to move, and after rook to c8, there is no easy solution. If you just trade queens, then your attack is over, and yes, you win a bishop, but you're still down a knight at the end, right? Because black is up 2 minor pieces. Therefore, getting back just one of them is not enough. You're losing the game right here. But what should you do instead? Again, we need to calculate force and moves, checks, captures, threats. And the move by white here is rook takes d7. Now, if you noticed this idea, if you notice rook takes d7 right here, followed by rook to e1, that's a really, really great and advanced result. Surprisingly, this is not the move played by Fischer, even though I'm pretty sure that the vast majority of players, including strong players, would play rook to e1 almost automatically and assume that white is winning because the king has to move. Now we grab the queen and we're up material, we keep attacking, it's all winning. But Fischer denied the move rook to e1 because he found a brilliant defense by black. And the defense here is knight to e5, a paradoxical move that gives up a knight. And initially it's like, hey, what's the difference? I still grab it with a check and then grab the queen, but there is a difference. After king to f6, black counterattacks the white rook. And now if queen takes d7, black's got king takes e5. And we end up with queen versus two rooks, which is materially balanced. White is still better, he can probably pick up a few more pawns, but nevertheless, it's not totally winning. To be on Fischer's level, you had to somehow figure it out. Realize that rook e1 is not the best move here for white, and find another move, which is better. It's a paradoxical pawn to f6, yet another sacrifice. Black cannot take it with a king, that would drop the queen on d7, knight takes f6 is forced, and now rook e1. This creates another paradoxical situation, where black seemingly finally brought his pieces into play. He's up a knight and a rook, and yet he's defenseless. Now there is check. The king has nowhere to go. He can't block with the queen, because the king starts blushing, it's an illegal move. Therefore, black is forced to give up everything. First the knight, rook takes e4, now that's another check, then the queen, and now black is totally lost. And yet after that in the game, black played rook to d8, and now unfortunately after this brilliant game, Fischer captured on b7 and blundered this back rank checkmate. What? Alright, I'm kidding, that did not happen. However, something else, which is also a little bit funny, happened. Here in this position, Fischer played queen g4, which is interesting, because I'm 100% sure that he saw that there is queen e7 check, there is rook f4 check, he was really good with counterattacks, and these are obvious moves which lead to a forcing checkmate. However, he didn't play these moves and instead played queen to g4, kind of like saying to his opponent, hey, if you ever thought me to blunder this back rank checkmate, that ain't happening. I'm curious to know what your result is. Let me know in the comments below. If you want to see how these separate tips work together in a clearer system that you can actually use in your own games, I'll link down below my course Level Up Your Chess, which I made for busy adults, for those who don't have time to browse through chess videos online endlessly and playing thousands of blitz games, but you want to have the most efficient techniques and also a clear blueprint. If that's for you, you can find it by clicking the link below the video. And have a great rest of the day. I'll talk to you soon.